First of all, you don't know me.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl,
Drama girl,
cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.
Season 4, episode 18, The Runaway Found. Finally a positive title. Air date May 16, 2007. James Lafferty is here, ladies and gentlemen. We're so excited to have him. My Nathan. We were just joking. We always joke about how the titles of these episodes have been so depressing the last little while. So
you brought us the sunshine, James. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. My pleasure. Synopsis. Nathan fears for his future as past mistakes come back to haunt him and Haley. Lucas hears a shocking confession after making contact with a mysterious witness to Keith's murder. Ooh. Brooke rekindles her friendship with Peyton after crossing paths with Chase.
Ooh.
That sounds so ominous, but you guys literally did just like bump into each other in a parking lot. But in the synopsis, it makes it sound so dark.
That's what I was thinking.
It really does.
That was one scene.
Yeah. It was like a literal blip on the radar. Nothing important happened there at all. So much important stuff happened with Dan, and he's not even in the synopsis.
Oh my God.
We have a lot to talk about.
that's weird.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about.
Buried the lead there, I guess.
This episode to me felt like somebody sat in a room and they wrote down on little strips of paper all the things that like they needed to get through, storylines they just needed to tie up and finish, and then threw them in a hat and then just pulled them out one at a time. And pasted it to a board.
Taped them to the paper like a ransom note.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It was so all over the place.
My favorite episodes are when it's two totally different TV shows happening in the same episode. Like whatever you and James were doing, you two had this like loving, beautiful storyline about communication. And Peyton was going to a prison under circumstances that have never existed in our judicial system ever. Like, can you imagine any prison on the planet letting a teenage girl just like walk down the hall?
On the cell block. I was like, why are they not in the little visitor windows with the phones? This is not allowed.
And the guy just shut the door and let you go in there?
He locked her in.
Shut the door behind. Locked her in with all the inmates.
I can't.
Some serious dramatic effect going on there, for sure. Was that at a real prison, or did they build that?
No.
We went to a real prison one time.
Yeah, the prison right next to the airport. Remember we would land and there's the prison right there?
Yeah. Welcome to Wilmington.
Yeah.
There's like a sewage treatment plant in a prison.
Yeah.
And then
Hollywood East.
But no, they built that on set, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, here's my question though. When we get into this discussion of like all these weird storylines that don't match up, did you always read the entire script, or did you do what Antoine did and just look at your stuff? Like, is all the girl shit a surprise?
Dude, I will never forget when Antoine told us all that he doesn't read the script, just being like, that is so awesome for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm way too much of a scary cat to not read the scripts. Like, I got to read it all. I got to know exactly what's going on just in case. Like, my character's supposed to be aware of it or supposed to inform anything. Like, I just had that drilled into me. So I always read the scripts.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then I never watched the show. That's the thing. So by the time I had read the script and then shot it, I was like, I feel like I already know what happens. So why am I going to watch it?
Wait, so you never watched the show?
I think I did like the first season, but after the first season, no, I didn't. I've never liked watching myself that much. And again, like it was so weird. I just, for some reason, I just felt like I knew what happened. I did know what happened. And so I just wasn't that compelled to see how it turned out. I just felt like I know it turned out great. People like it. So
it's probably why Antoine did see all the episodes of the show, because he never knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
He was like, what's going on this week?
Dude, he would come to set and be like, man, that was crazy. That was crazy what y'all did. Hey, y'all are good actors. You guys should do this for a living.
But he says that all the time.
So funny.
Oh
my God.
Well, we've got Whitey right away kind of dealing with this press conference. Did you believe the idea that this high school point shaving would have solicited a huge media presence at Tree Hill High School?
At the time, I was so watching it this time. Yes, I was like, wait, what's going on here? Like, but I was so like plugged into basketball at the time that I knew that, every level of basketball from high school up has its own ecosystem of like, I'm sure betting, but also, rumors and news and, high school students are being like recruited. And so they're getting like scores and like, this is a 5-star recruit. This is a 3-star recruit. And then it's big business where they go to college. Right. So it's like that sort of, there's write-ups on great players in Slam magazine, like when they're, juniors in high school.
Jeez.
And so that kind of, and so, at the time I was like, this is the story we're telling. We're telling the story of a kid who's going to go to, a national contender, possibly be in the NBA. There would 100% be media coverage around that.
I didn't even know Slam magazine was a thing, James. I just learned something.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, I looked across the Zoom squares and I was like, he is telling a story and the three of us are going,
Well, no, but here's what I love though. Whoever wrote this episode, who shall remain nameless, definitely knew that part of the story, had probably read Slam magazine, researched that part. The prison part, not so much. We didn't Google that.
Not so much.
Not so
Right,
much.
Listen.
Right. And I guess it would have helped for some context there as well, just to like let us know, just to remind people who are not in the know that like this would be and is a big deal. Like maybe this happened to somebody else, in the past, or another player, this is a perfect example or whatever. But I mean, I haven't watched as much basketball lately, or I don't read Slam magazine anymore. So like watching it this time, I was like, hang on, what the hell happened here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it tracks. I don't know about having the press conference like
at the school,
like a common area of the school.
That just seems like bad
that's more
production.
of a budget issue than a reality issue. It's actually really interesting that you say that, though, that there is, I mean, there's a whole ecosystem for this. It's one of the biggest sports in the world. But that feels like there would have been such a cool opportunity when Nathan went to see Dan to talk about his fears and talk about the fact that there were investigators around. That would have been such a cool opportunity for Dan to tell Nathan a story that would have clued in the audience that didn't subscribe to Slam magazine about how serious this was.
He's like, Nathan, let me show you this issue of Slam magazine.
Yes.
In the summer of 1992.
He pulls out a shoebox.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We do a lot of theorizing.
Dan had his own stuff going on, didn't he? This was a huge episode for Paul.
Yeah, what a great performance. I think him and Matt Barr, they like saved this episode with their performances. To me, that was beautiful.
Well, I just want to know what was happening in the ecosystem of our show, that not only did we have the Matt Barr horror storyline, but now we have like all these horror storylines converging. Like you've got a teenage girl being gaslit by her mother and Dan Scott pointing a gun in a store and like,
I know.
Like everything's a horror film except for you two.
It was the same thing.
Yeah.
Except for us always.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing over again. So like now we're watching a crazy man hold 2 women hostage again.
Yeah.
Like 2 episodes later.
It's really interesting because in the beginning, when you go to see him, James, and you are talking about what's happening and, you're a boy who's afraid, talking to his dad. And I wrote down what he said. He said, stay cool, deny everything, pray no one ever uncovers the truth. And he's talking about himself. He's telling you what he's been doing since he shot Keith. And he's starting to lose it. Like he looks like he's going to cry. Joy, do you remember you were like, what is going on in Paul's eyes? It's so interesting. And it opens in this space where you're like, whoa, we're really going to get inside what Dan's going through. And then he holds these women hostage and makes it all about Karen was supposed to be mine. And I'm like, wait a second, we're in weird like male possessiveness over women, like they're trophies. He shot somebody. Like it just went completely off the rails. That's where I feel like it got pulled out of a hat. And they were just like, he'll say this.
But then he handed them this little weird rag doll at the end. I was so
What was
confused.
with the doll?
I don't know. Paul did such a great job because that's one of those things when you're handed material that you just read and you're like, what the hell is this? How am I supposed to make sense out of this? And there's really only one way to do it, and that's to commit fully and just go all the way in. You know, you're just going to look stupid otherwise. So he really committed.
Yeah, but I feel like he also played the nuance really well too. You know, like that scene where he like goes into the house with Abby and her mom is kind of like, you know, you're watching it and you're like, this is f***ed up. But
It was terrifying.
but he did such a great job of like walking this line of being dominant to get what he wants in that moment, but also being like afraid, you know, and sort of like he was like begging and demanding at the same time, which is not an easy thing to do. And especially when you're like depicting a situation like that, where you are so clearly the aggressor. I thought he just did a really good job of walking the line between like dangerous and desperate in this episode.
Yep.
I thought so too.
It's weird. It's weird to see someone with that big of a body, right?
Yes.
And you're literally watching Paul do everything he can not to manhandle those women who are trying to push him out. And it's this strange kind of like Terminator walk where he doesn't have to push them down on the couch. He doesn't have to do anything physical with the women.
Presence.
It's just like a pheromone that's like making people recoil from him. It's scary.
Dude, he like fills up the doorway. Like you open the door and it's all Dan. Just like,
completely.
wow.
And he's just holding this brown paper bag. What's in the bag, Dan?
What's in the bag? I've got thoughts.
Ooh, okay. What are your thoughts?
Here's what struck me, because I watched this episode separately from you guys. And James, just so you know, we talk about all the things going on behind the scenes as well as what was going on camera. And so everyone knows that the end of season 4 was a particularly weird time for me with our boss. Last week we watched the Honeygrove episode, and I was like, I was hiding in a hotel room with James half the time, stealing the walkie-talkies from the AD department, just like hiding out. But in this episode, I can tell that I'm like not doing well. I'm super broken out. I'm super stressed. I'm not super checked into my performance. And you've got two storylines where women are confronting men who have assaulted them, saying, I'm going to tell, you can't do this to me anymore. And the men are pushing back. Ian Banks, the bad guy named after my boyfriend at the time. They used my boyfriend's name.
Are you serious? That's right.
It was,
God.
He's like, you're a tease. You asked for this. You're a tease. You asked for this. Abby tells Dan, I'm going to tell, and is very quickly put in her place. No, you are not. Right? And they hired Sean Young, who had been a very, very successful young actress who had the world at her feet and who very publicly had her part reduced in Wall Street because she had conflict with Oliver Stone, who had been replaced in other movies because she was outspoken, and who had been dragged through the mud publicly for speaking out against her bosses. And to me, it felt like a really deliberate casting because this is too small of a part for her. There's no reason why they shouldn't have cast a local actress except to have kind of this example of like, this is what happens when you're a pain in the ass. And I was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they were firing a warning shot.
Yeah. I mean, she was, she was pretty much run out.
Was this her only episode?
I think so. I mean, I don't know that we see Abby again.
I mean, they leave. Lucas goes at the end of the episode and their house is empty.
But doesn't Abby come back? I feel like Allison came back.
I don't know.
She was a great actress. Do you remember working with
so
Allison in the
good.
classroom, James?
Yeah. No, I remember was that season 3 or season 2?
3.
Season 3? Yeah, I remember being struck by how good she was. And she was super young, right? Like at that time, wasn't she like
She's little. She's like
14 or
15
or something?
16. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember being like, man, she's she's a beast. Like she was really had this crazy, emotional reservoir and was just really like locked in as well. I just remember her being super focused, super locked in. And that's
One
not an easy
episode.
thing to do. Show up on a set like that as a kid and just make mincemeat out of those scenes,
Yeah, I mean, especially if like there's so much pressure. Like that was a huge episode for anyone to come in. We talked to Colin a lot about coming in for the school shooting episode and just having to perform because the weight of it is so much more than just like, a typical episode of television. You've got to carry the emotional weight of a nation of viewers. And so she doesn't get let off the ropes. Now she's got to do it this many episodes later. What did you guys think about the fact that her mom was like gaslighting her and saying, your name's not Abby, is it?
Oh, no. She was trying to prove to Lucas that Abby's gone crazy, that all she can ever do is just shake her head. So she was trying to like put a chink in the armor of him thinking that she had confirmed his theory.
Yeah, I wrote down, I said, is the mom coaching her to do this to keep her safe because the mayor's the murderer? And that was like literally in my notes. And then 2 pages later, Abby is pretending.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show the folks at home, we literally don't remember what we did.
No.
Yeah. But so strange.
Yes.
So strange.
Yeah.
That they came in and never came back. That's it. That's both of their last episode.
That is wild because it really did feel like a jumping off point more than anything else, I feel like, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that idea that the mom, not that it makes it right, by the way, I imagine it would be very traumatizing were this real for a teenager to have their parent treating them that way. But this idea that you're so terrified that the guy in charge of your town got away with murder. He murdered his sibling.
Yeah.
So you think, I cannot let him kill my kid. I can't let this come down on my kid.
My kid who goes to school with this guy's kids.
Yeah. And so maybe, there's obviously the behind the scenes stuff, which you brought up, Hill, but I feel like the way they probably pitched it in the writer's room was there's just so much fear that as soon as Abby said it, they're running out of town.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. Or it's like, it's her way of protecting her. Like it's best to just not touch this at all and stay away from it because it's too dangerous kind of thing. I don't know.
It feels like a spicy Lifetime movie, like those ripped from the headline movies about moms that make their kids be sick. What is that? Munchausen syndrome?
Munchausen?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're in a wheelchair now, Abby. Deal with it.
Oh God! This whole episode actually was a kind of a cheesy TV movie, wasn't it? Like even just the point. No, but the point shaving—that's its own movie. Like basketball star shaves points. What's going to happen? Will his brother take the fall? And then you guys with your going to the prison thing.
Yeah, this was definitely around the time in the show when things started moving at this pace, right? Like, there was always things that happened that were a little bit out there sometimes, but I feel like they started happening more often around this time, right?
We were really water skiing toward that shark at this point.
Yes.
We're moving towards it. We're going to jump.
They had started making fun of us on The Soup, right? And rather than be offended by it, I feel like our bosses saw an opportunity to lean into it and say, great, any press is good press. Let's really make them talk about us. But let's talk about how, as actors, that made us feel. Like, James, do you remember our show being on The Soup and being made fun of?
I do. Yeah. When was that?
Oh, yes. Psych made fun of us, too.
They did. Psych made fun of us all the time.
Yeah. It's interesting because I always felt like there was the way that there was like two worlds. Like our show made like an impact in two very different ways with two very different groups of people. It was like the industry kind of saw our show one way, and then fans saw our show another way. Like we were not, if that makes sense. Like so it wasn't ever really like a surprise to me that a show like The Soup would make fun of us, and when they did make fun of us, I thought they kind of nailed it. Like it was funny.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, that's true.
I didn't hate being on The Soup. I thought it was like, it's sort of like a little badge of honor in a way. But I also always had I guess I got satisfaction out of knowing that people dug it. There were people out there who did like it and were taking those twists and turns with us. I'm not really sure how we did that, like how we walked that line, struck that tone. It's something original to our show, at least,
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the reason that we didn't find a bigger audience, or it's part of the reason why we just have the audience that we do. Like it's so hard to know what the impact of all of that really was. But I just try to take it in stride, I guess.
Well, and I think to your point, that sort of mix, that seesaw, it is fun to watch heightened drama.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's engaging. We enjoy it. It's a similar version to your point earlier. It's why people like horror movies. But we also had so much heart. We had those realities. We had, I wrote down something about how in that first scene when the two of you are at the river court, Nathan and Haley are on the picnic table.
Oh, so cute.
Oh my God. And you're like just expressing all your fears to your person. And it's so like, it's just so poignant. I made a note about the apparent pain on your face. And then when you go to do your press conference and you actively choose not to be Dan and you give this composed speech, but it's clearly so poignant. You get to see growth. And yeah, most kids aren't dealing with point shaving because of gambling in a high school. Like the container is ridiculous, but what you guys put in it is very real. And even the Brooke and Peyton in this episode, the container of a psycho Derek.
Oh God.
Is insane. But friends showing up for each other after somebody gets assaulted and saying, F that guy, f his shame. It never matters what you're wearing. You didn't do anything wrong. You are not a tease. That is his problem. And we're going to fight back. That is something that almost every group of female friends I know has had to do at one point or another in their lives. And it's real. And I think those are the things, to your point, James, like that's what I think the fans click into is what was made real inside of a TV drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, just to run with that a little bit, like I watched, Alex and I watched Firefly Lane on Netflix. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
The Katherine Heigl show. And I remember like, as I was watching it, like I remember thinking like, oh man, this kind of reminds me of like One Tree Hill in some ways. And it feels a little bit soapy, but I stuck with it. And by the end of the show, I love the show and I can't wait for the rest of it to come out and stuff.
Same.
You're so cute.
But I think I realized like watching the show, like, oh, this is why soap works, is because they take you to these like crazy extreme ends sometimes where you're like, okay, what am I doing here? But but they trick you, like they get you, they get you to believe it for that second. And when they get you to believe it, and then something like you were saying, Sophia, like something like really organic and like relatable comes from it, then you're just like, it's like you've been at like you've just been watching a magician do his thing for an hour, and suddenly you're like, this guy's like the coolest person in the world.
Right,
like,
right.
This guy is so, like,
We're kind
you know
of
what I mean?
conditioning the audience to do what we do when we have to have a reaction and there's just a C-stand and a tennis ball. In that way, like we're teaching the audience is buying something that is clearly not real, but because the emotion behind it and the people that are there feel connected to reality, they go there with us.
Yeah, it's a totally different way of storytelling, but like it does work if done right, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you also feel that we were kind of doing tag team wrestling? Because like a group of us would get to do something really earnest and heartfelt, while the other group had to like get into the ring and do the slapstick body slam, like crazy shit.
Yeah, we're always trading places.
We were always, there's not one single episode where we're all just like steady. Like there's a hitch in the giddy up always. Who was your most mischievous partner? You've got good stuff with Chad in this episode that I want to talk about. Obviously, you and Joy had 27 years worth of marital strife to conquer.
Marital strife.
Yeah, but you also had Brett Claywell, you had Tyler Hilton, you had Robert Buckley after I was gone. Like who are the people that when you read the script you were like, uh-oh, we're gonna get this in trouble?
Oh man. Well, definitely, Tim. I mean, I ended up in like a Girl Scout costume with Tim very early on.
That was so fun.
But then as the show went on, yeah, I mean, Chris Keller, like every time Chris Keller came to town, it was like
You guys were magic
I feel
together.
like all of us were like praying that our characters would bounce off of him while he was there for however long he was going to be there,
So fun.
He was so great and such an amazing energy, and just like the guy is so just magnetic on screen. Like no matter what he's doing. I mean, his character gets away with murder because he's so friggin' charming.
Yeah.
And I think I love that stuff. I loved, because then I could go as low as I wanted. I could just be like baseline. I didn't have to do anything when he was around.
Yeah. Perfect straight man. That was it. It was the Abbott and Costello of it all with the two of you on camera always. It was the straight man and the funny man, but it worked so well because you both leaned in so hard to your role.
Yeah, it's so fun to know that you're in a funny scene, but not have the pressure of having to be funny. Just being like, this is gonna be funny because he's funny.
But when the two of you did that episode where you were in Nathan's hatchback and the tape got stuck and played that ridiculous song over and over again, like, I need you to know that the three of us watching that episode were like, we want this to be a movie.
Whole movie.
Where is this movie? Like, these two need to have their own ridiculous, like, slapstick adventure that lasts a full 2 hours. Like, we need it as audience members. We need it.
Oh, that's
You two
awesome.
should just play firefighters or something. Do a firefighter comedy. Just like dudes being dudes on a ladder. That would be fun.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Love.
Fine.
One's afraid of heights and one's not. And there you go. That's the show.
Perfect.
But your partner in this episode is your brother, right? And I love, love, love this conflict that you have with Lucas because it's so real. You have been giving marching orders by your dad just to shut up, right? And you tell Lucas, don't touch it. Don't touch the thing. Don't touch it. And what does he do? He's got to go be a martyr with Whitey.
Go be a hero.
So Lucas.
Well, Haley showed up. Haley didn't help much either. She was the one that was sort of like needling which is actually, I thought so interesting that Haley, the girl that grew up with such, good parenting and strong morals and values and was like, no, you got to always do the right thing. When push comes to shove, she's the one who gets a little waffly, and Nathan's the one who decides, the kid who grows up without any of that's being set. In fact, the opposite example is set for him, and he's the one who has to make that decision and does it with flying colors. I thought that was really interesting, kind of telling, I guess, very, very human of us.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. Like Haley's role in this whole thing. I mean, she's obviously. It's kind of funny. Like I got this feeling of like seeing Haley, pregnant with like this thing that means more than all of it. And like talking about this stuff, I kind of felt for Haley, like, are you not annoyed with these guys yet? Like, we got way bigger fish to fry here, right? But yeah, I thought you did a great job. And I really like Haley and the relationship between Haley and Lucas and Nathan. I always thought that was such an interesting dynamic because like Haley and Lucas are that's like so part, like it's like the DNA of the show. Like I remember that relationship so well from the pilot episode, being so cool. And so, but I don't know how often we went back to it. And it was cool to see that in this episode. Like, I'm glad I got an episode where I got to see that dynamic between you guys because it was really great.
Yeah.
You know what's cool is like Nathan and Lucas are brothers, but they didn't grow up as brothers. They don't know how to be siblings. But Haley grew up with Lucas as a sibling.
Yeah.
And so Haley in her relationship with Nathan gets to teach the boys how to be siblings with each other. Like you are absolutely their usher into that relationship.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you could have that sibling conversation, Joy. You could have it with Lucas and then explain Lucas to Nathan, because you see that the immediate reaction is conflict. It's like, that motherfucker.
Yeah.
But Haley also gets to qualify things for them. I was taken aback. It was another thing I jotted down. When you look at Nathan and say, he's your best friend and your brother. And I was like, oh my God, are they best friends? Like,
They are
you
now.
know, it's just this wild moment where you qualify, you know, in a scene that wasn't as well written as that one, you would have been doing exposition about like how far you two have come in your relationship. Wah, wah.
There was no time for that in this episode.
Exactly. But it was this really simple declarative statement, but it was a big deal because you put words to it. And we've seen it for a long time, but I don't know that we've heard anyone say that before. And it's striking. And it is very cool that she gets to be, you know, she's the connective tissue for these two. And then the three of them really build what you were saying, James, that relationship.
Yeah, this is the season for Haley of she's definitely like the connective tissue in a lot of storylines. I feel like she's entering into this season of like where I did a lot of bouncing around of explaining things and making people understand each other and like trying to keep everything like afloat.
She's literally being everyone's mom because none of us have parents.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fitting because, you know, she's about to be a mom. So
Exactly.
But anyway, I loved Nathan's choice. I thought it was really cool that he got up there and, you know, made the right choice in spite of everything that was on the line.
How often are you three in scenes together in this show? Like I noticed that there's like some really good stuff with you guys at the end, and which is there's just such an ease between you three, like in these characters. It was really cool to see that. It was like perfect representation of what the show stands for right there in that scene with you three. But like, does that happen? I can't remember. Like, does that happen quite often, or was that like
it did? But it's petered out a little bit over the last season. But we've also
definitely
introduced a lot
ebbs and
more
flows.
characters. Yeah.
Exactly. But I did love that. Very similarly, in the triangle with Haley, Nathan, and Lucas, the triangle of the female friendships between us is so special. And whether you get, you know, moments of Brooke and Haley having time, Peyton and Haley having time, Brooke and Rachel, or Peyton and Brooke, like we have a lot of great female duos, but when the three of us are together, it does feel special. And it's cool that you see that, James. Like when Haley comes in and we get the, you know, dun dun dun, like who's in the apartment?
Who's here?
But then it's the three of us, and it's that iconic scene. Like the thing that probably gets shared with me the most is Brooke's warrior speech. And the three of us sitting in that bed, these young girls who've been through so much together, and they're choosing to take what's happened to them and celebrate their strength. It is kind of this iconic moment. And I do think there is something really special about when the three of us get to be together.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there is. Yeah.
Is there anybody who didn't live in that apartment at some point? Like, I'm so pumped that Peyton, like,
I was going to say Mal.
didn't
Mouth
live
is the only person.
in the apartment. God, that apartment set.
That
like,
apartment.
you knew.
Did we even still have that in season 5?
No.
Or did it go away?
I don't know.
Surely no.
Right?
I forgot that we moved in together in that apartment.
Zero recollection.
Yeah.
None.
Last week, I was like, wait, what? Is that going to happen?
But super cute that Brooke like repainted the whole bedroom.
Yeah.
I forgot that. That
Same.
was
I
so
did
lovely.
too.
I got a little tear. I was like, she painted it red. Like, it was iconic and totally caught me off guard.
It caught me off guard too. That's what's funny. It's such a poignant moment. And it is one that until I saw it in front of my face, I forgot we had done.
Yeah.
Wait, did they redo the bathroom in your apartment, though? Because y'all had some goofy tile in that apartment.
That whole apartment set was problematic.
You know what? I was struck by how not aspirational the sets were. Do you know what I mean? Like Like, and I kind of like it. Like, I'm kind of into it because I felt like when I see like Nathan and Haley's apartment or your apartment, like some of these sets, I'm like, this
It feels
I don't
real.
know. You watch like sitcoms and other shows and stuff, and everybody, no matter what job they have, is living in like a massive like 2,000 square foot like exposed brick loft.
Right.
Like the friend's apartment.
And you're like,
Perfectly
what the hell
decorated.
is going on? Yeah. But like, I feel like our sets were like, they pretty closely reflected, at least in the beginning, like where people live, like where, like what a first apartment would actually look like.
And what furniture would be in it. And
what furniture would be in it, and like maybe you don't have time or money to like decorate right away or like paint the walls and stuff, or maybe you got some, like you said, maybe you got some funky tiling from the last person that lived there or something. But like
totally.
that part of it felt pretty real to me. Not aesthetically pleasing, but interesting that they let us do that.
James, there's like one episode where all of a sudden there's just this like wall of bubbles that you've put in the apartment to surprise
Sophia just choked on
Oh
her
my
coffee.
God, I just almost spit coffee out of my
A
nose.
wall of bubbles?
It like wasn't an aquarium. It was just a wall that like had bubbles floating up.
Like a feature wall of
Yes.
It was solely for the purpose of a transition scene.
Yeah.
Because somebody had brought it in to our apartment for a transition moment in a scene. What from a prom or what was it? Go.
I got it. When you guys are supposed to go on your honeymoon to London, and then the car crash happens and you don't get to go, you go back to the apartment finally, and Nathan had this big surprise waiting for Haley, and he turned the whole apartment into London, except it's like giant artwork of red telephone booths and big weird red chairs. And then there's a bubble wall next to the mural of the London Bridge, and it only exists so Nathan can have a drowning flashback.
Oh my God, that's right.
So ridiculous. You guys, it is burned into my brain.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Whatever happened to that storyline? Wait a second.
Where did it go?
Where did it go? You were having all of these like flashes, and after the limo went off the bridge.
Yeah. This sweet boy with so much PTSD, and everyone's just like, you're a basketball star. You're fine.
He's fine.
And it just didn't really go anywhere.
I'm trying to remember.
No, James, your character had PTSD for basically a whole season, and it was, attempted suicides multiple times. I mean, there was some really dark stuff in there.
It was gnarly.
Do you ever have people come up and talk to you about that? Because I have people come up to me and talk to me about sexual assault all the time based on the, crazy psycho Derek stuff. And you don't think about that when you're filming it. But then when we start going to conventions and stuff like that, I don't know if you've ever had anyone kind of put those puzzle pieces together.
Not in like a specific way with a specific thing, I think that helped. I mean, I've had, I've had people tell me that the show got them through, a really tough time in their life and things like that. But I don't think I've ever had anybody say like, this thing that your character went through in particular helped me get through this particular thing. I'm not sure that I've had that, but certainly, have had people tell me that, the show was there for them, while they're like stuck in a hospital for, months or something like that. Like that to me, I feel like is that's the thing that makes me the most happy is when, it's like I feel like we made something that was actually, because I had that for myself. Like there are shows that I will go to because I need to be comforted,
Firefly
and the
Lane.
fact that like we made something
true.
like that. Yeah. Now Firefly Lane.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's really cool to be a part of something that is that for someone.
Yeah.
Us too. It's one of the greatest
It is very special.
honors about being a part of this show for sure.
Now that Nathan seems to kind of be on the other side of that darkness and you guys are prepping for a kid, as we, wrap up the high school years, what was your mindset knowing that you were going to have to work with like a baby? And I say it like it's disgusting, with a baby.
A baby.
Oh, that's a lot for like any actor, but especially a young actor who doesn't have a lot of experience with babies. Did you grow up babysitting?
No.
Okay.
I still don't have a lot of like experience with babies. Like I'm still very uncomfortable holding a baby because I think I'm gonna break it, Like it's I don't have like if there's it's so at the time, yeah, I remember being not so much like scared of working. It's like I like kids, I like babies and stuff, but I just don't like I don't know how to be around them. And I'm really bad with kids as well. Like I'm so lucky that like
What? That's not true.
You were so great with Jackson.
yeah, but Jackson's like different, like Jackson was
He was so
like
chill.
so extroverted and so chill
Yeah.
and so funny and like he just wanted to play. But like I struggle with kids who are shy because I'm shy. So
Yeah.
if there's a kid who's shy, I think that they can see like I'm just like they don't like me. Like that kid knows I'm a bad person. I'm just gonna stay away. So I was afraid that I would be like have some really awkward relationship with like the kid that's supposed to on set.
You're just paranoid you're gonna have a staring contest for 5 years.
Yeah.
Looking at each other, just like, what are you gonna do?
Yep. And I did have to learn, like with Jackson, I feel like I was talking to him like he was a kid for a little bit. And, he was like, dude, you don't have to talk to me like that. Nobody's talked to me like that since I was 3, man. Like,
He's like 5.
say stuff like that.
Yeah.
Kids are great at telling you that though. They'll let you know.
Oh yeah. He told me, oh dude, the funniest thing ever. I guess this is a next season story, but I picked him up one time and was like, what's up, man? He was like, ooh, your breath.
Oh no.
I was like,
my gosh.
I'll go get a mint.
Yeah,
Like,
kids
yeah.
are hard. They're hard.
I told Joy and Hilarie this, but James, I don't know if you remember, because I do recall Lisa and I both being pretty horrified. So we may have come to set saying this, but there was a day, because, kids have different hours. They're not at work all the time that we are. And we were having one of those days, you said this earlier, the hair and makeup trailer is like the hub of the whole show. And Lisa and I were getting ready to do a scene. And so I'd gone through makeup and I was in hair. And she'd gone through hair and she was in makeup. And Jackson comes in to get ready for the scene. And he looks at Lisa and he goes, what happened to you? And she goes, what? And he goes, you look weird. And she just said, oh, well, I don't have any makeup on yet. We're getting ready. And he goes,
Oh, wow.
yeah, you look better with makeup on.
Stop!
Just shaking his head and walked down to the other end of the trailer. And we were like, oh, the honesty of children. Oh, God, it hurts. It was so, and the whole place just fell out. Like, I thought Tim was going to fall down laughing.
Oh,
It's like, what are you going to do? They just tell you what they think.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was a perfect representation of that because he was like, and he was such a good kid. He just had a heart of gold. And so no matter what he said, it was funny.
James, how old were you when you did your first job? Like, how old were you on set when you were first starting?
I think the first time I was on set, I was like six years old.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think you and I were like the only child actors on our show. Everybody else had started later in life.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So did that affect do you feel like that made you protective of him because you'd been in that space before?
Yeah. I think it made me look back at my childhood a little differently, I definitely felt like just drawn to him because I just feel it was impossible not to be drawn to Jackson. But I do remember thinking like this kid's working a lot,
Yeah.
and then I remember thinking like, did I do that? Like, did I work a lot when I was a kid? Like, I don't know. It just kind of gives you a little bit of a bird's eye view of the whole thing. But I think for the most part, I really recognized in him, like why I fell in love with sets as a kid. And why I've always felt like home the most on a set because he engaged so much with everyone. Like he really like that set was a playground for him. Yeah. And even if he was working a lot, I always felt like he really was having a good time. And there wasn't any place he would rather be because he had so many friends there, like And he was the type of kid who was really curious, and everyone would give, even though we were on we're on a TV set, like time is money, but there was never a time where like we never had like not enough time for Jackson. You know what I mean? Like script supervisor, production assistant, director, like if he wanted to talk to you, if he had a question, like you were going to spend time with him. And so I feel like, that seeing that, I was like, oh, well, yeah, no wonder I'm still here, because it's pretty cool to be on set when you're a kid, under the right circumstances. Right. I'm sure, it can go very, very wrong, very easy for it to go wrong. But I feel like
we had a safe space for him.
He had a safe space. Yeah.
Well, and you know what's cool? You're making me realize. I remember when in the later seasons we all started directing. I don't know if it was like I envision it as being like a water cooler conversation. We didn't have a water cooler, but you know what I mean. I remember all of us talking about how we'd been doing this job for so long, but then directing episodes, it reignites the whole thing and it makes everything new again. And I don't think I had considered it until you just said it. I think Jackson showing up in season 5 was the first version of that. He made the whole set new again for everybody. And we were like, whoa, this is really cool.
Yeah, seeing it through his eyes.
100% that happened.
It's special when you get that in a long running job. When you get things that make it feel brand new again, years in, like that's really, really special.
Yes.
With the directing part of it, James, like when you watch an episode like this one, like 418 back, now that you've directed so much, what stands out to you? Like, what would you have done differently in a situation like this?
Like with this particular episode?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have done anything differently. I think what really stood out to me was, that our show had a specific style. There were certain things, and I don't want to say like formulaic it's not formulaic in a bad way, but by this time in the show, we had a formula, right? And
it's a familiarity that the audience relies on, so you can't stray too far from it on purpose.
Yeah. And there's like a rhythm, and there's certain things that happen there's certain things that happen technically that signal what's about to happen for you. So like, as we're getting into, the coda is a thing that has been around for a while, and I think our show did really well. But like, there were certain things that happened like to get us into the coda. Like, you're getting close to the coda when you start to see like a couple crane shots and stuff. And, it's not just the end of a crane shot because they cut it for time. It's like, okay, now we're slowing things down a bit. Now we're going to sort of, I guess we're going to sort of hypnotize you a little bit and like lull you into like a sense of something as we go into, then we'll cue the music, and then you're just like floating away with us as we cut between characters. So stuff like that. Yeah, it was cool to see that, because, I think that stuff was like pretty consistent throughout the entire life of the show. So I recognized a lot of it in this episode. And David Jackson, I remember being a really good dude. I liked him a lot. I liked his energy. I liked the way he ran a set. And so, at the time, I wasn't looking at David Jackson's. I wasn't thinking about David Jackson's like visual choices or directorial choices. I was just thinking about like my experience with him personally on the set. But it was cool to watch what he was doing as a director, this time around.
Yeah. Did you,
cool.
When you look for things to direct now, what kind of projects excite you?
I love stuff that doesn't take itself too seriously. I love stuff that's a little tongue-in-cheek dramedy. I've always just like been really taken with the Adam McKays and the David O. Russells of the world, I think David O. Russell is probably the best example, because he can, like, that guy can tear my, his movies can tear my heart out and make me laugh hysterically at the same time. And there's something about that seesaw that I really love and gravitate towards. So, yeah.
It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad we got you to come on this show, James.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure, guys. Yeah.
Is there anything you have coming up that you want to talk about before we spin our wheel and all that stuff? What besides everyone is doing great, which we talked about in our last chat, but is there anything else you want to
Yeah, I got a film coming out here. I don't know if it's coming out soon. It's called Red Right Hand. Some producers from our show, Ian and Nash and Nelms, they directed that film. Alex and I are both in it, so
Cool.
that's fun. And we are. I don't want to give too much away, but we're playing. We get to do a departure from what we usually do. So yeah, really excited about that. But other than that, I'm just like. We're just editing season 2. We'll be doing that for the next 7 months in this room. Actually, Steven's going to be here any minute.
I love how collaborative you and your wife are, and
Yeah.
coming up in our industry, I didn't have industry parents. You didn't have industry parents. Like, there was no example for how you're supposed to formulate a relationship that makes sense with the hours we work and with the weirdness of our job. And so finding someone you can collaborate with is vital. And I love that you guys are doing all these projects together. She's cool, James.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing.
She's a rad lady.
Thanks for saying that. I think it's definitely it's the only way to survive in this industry too, I think. If you're going to be in this industry and have a partner in this industry that has the same job as you, I feel like it's probably pretty easy for it to get competitive. You got to go the other way. You got to just lift each other up and help each other out and work together. It's, I feel like it's the only way. I can't imagine doing it any other way,
Well, it's really special. And it's it is, to Hilarie's point, it's very inspiring because, especially for all of us, when we talk about the things that we share in those 9 years, getting kind of yanked out of your life for 10 months a year can be really disruptive. And to see the way that you guys are literally building your life around being able to make sure you can be in places together is awesome. And you guys are making such cool shit. So it's fun to root for you, as our friend who is happy, and also to root for the things that you two as partners are making. That's all really, really cool. And,
Oh, thanks. I'm definitely a lucky guy for sure.
Oh yeah. And I want to say, on behalf of the three of us, I know it was cats in a bag trying to get all 4 of our schedules to line up to get you on this show. The fans kept being like, when's he coming? And we were we've literally been working on it for a year. We've literally been trying so hard. And the fact that you were able to kind of scissor out this time for us this morning and make sure you could be here was really special.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah. No, you guys have always been there for me and for us. And, I really appreciate that. And I'm just really happy for all of you and the podcast. It's such a success and people love it. And it's really cool to, you're not just doing this, we feel, the rest of us from the show, we feel it as well. We're, I feel the love from the show through your guys' show. And you've really brought it back around in a way that I never knew was possible. And that's really awesome. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, bud.
Baby, we got to spin a wheel. That's how you become an official drama queen. We have to spin a wheel together.
Oh, we spin a wheel.
We spin a wheel.
It's most likely to, like a yearbook, most likely to.
So this week, our superlative, you have to pick one of our actor friends, but also a character. So
this is perfect for today's conversation.
Who's most likely to babysit your kids?
Who's the most likely to babysit your kids?
You know who has babysat my kids? Antoine. When George was a baby, she would not sleep. She just absolutely would not sleep. And Antoine and I were doing a movie together, and I watched him pick her up, put her in one arm, hold her in this real weird way, and she was out in 2 minutes. And I was just what? Yeah, he has skills. Amazing. Literally.
Awesome.
Literally.
Well, knowing that, I feel like that'd be a pretty safe choice. But I think I'm going to go with Barbara.
Yeah.
If she could give my kid an ounce of the juju that her kids have, then I feel like my kid would be fine. What she's done with her family and their whole crew, man, that's so cool. They're awesome. And Barbara is just, she's a hero to me. So
she'll cry if she hears you said that, James. She loves you so much.
She's amazing.
What character?
Haley, I'd say she's yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Right.
Yeah.
Or
There you
Karen.
Yeah, Karen would be great.
Like not Rachel. Not Rachel.
Like
Not
blatantly
Rachel.
not Rachel.
Yeah,
Not Dan Scott.
Not
Not Rachel. There are a few definite no's.
Sweet. All right. Well, next week we have episode 419 and we are barreling towards graduation. We're almost out of the high school years. James, I'm so glad that you could come and be a part of high school with us.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Don't forget to leave us a review. You can also follow us on Instagram at DramaQueensOTH.
Or email us at dramaqueens@iheartradio.com. See you next time.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.